trying to be mean to you on stream.
Hey, we're live. My hotkeys don't work. They just stopped working. They just don't work anymore. I have a whole system set up that I can press a series of buttons in order and feel like a hacker man, and everything happens, and it doesn't work anymore.
You could say they're cold keys.
Yeah, they're cold keys now. Well, they're regular keys. Cold keys probably something to do with nuclear war or something. I don't know. Hey! Welcome to Jarviskjir, A Mother's Love, Week 7. If every session was a day, we would be at the end of the week, Sunday. And that's pretty much that thought process.
I didn't approve of this joke.
It wasn't really a joke.
I'm not sure what it was.
It was just
a factual statement.
It was just a I think it could be called a bit, but it wasn't a joke. How is everyone?
It's a bit.
Hey.
Good.
Very much.
Good. Doing terrific.
I'm good.
I was better when I was told that Neil wasn't going to be here for the first hour.
Yeah, we nearly were.
We're doing all right.
We have no Aaron, and we were nearly going to have less Neil. But now we got more Neil and no Aaron still. But I believe Aaron's on holiday, so
Right.
I heard that Scott was lonely without me, so...
He does talk about you and Dean a lot.
I talk about Dean a lot. You just like shoehorn your way in.
What's that going to
Scott learnt that word today.
Oh.
Yesterday.
You just got a shoehorn.
Yeah!
Your way in.
As someone who's not part of that inside joke, I'm very confused.
That's fine.
And I'm sure chat...
It was for the insiders. It was for you, Skoink.
I love inside jokes. I wish I'd be part of one day.
That's for you, Skoink.
That sounds weird. It's for you, Skoink.
Ollie, I
We
picked
don't-
up that Office US reference. Nice.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. So, we are going to play some D&D. Where the last session ended off, you are traveling through the Frozen Lands. Guess why they're called the Frozen Lands? Because it's cold as shit. There's a lot of ice, a lot of snow. But actually, with Melody and Haven's powers combined, you are amazing at traveling across country. You actually have no issues. You aren't attacked by wild creatures. You aren't even attacked by monsters for the most part. You go very fast, and you can easily gather food in places that the Frozen Land aren't as dead as you thought they would be. You thought they would be sort of barren, but they're not. Melody especially is able to find little specks and spots of life, little corners and little caverns where you can find animals to mercilessly eat, or more often than not, berries and some such. So actually, you're doing brilliantly traveling until around 2 weeks into what you figure is around a 3-week travel. Bear in mind, you have amazing trackers and people, which is making your travel across the breadth of the Frozen Lands so much faster than a common person. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but the reason why Bastillion is such a weird place is because common folk just can't travel there. You just die. It's just not possible without a guide who is about as strong as Haven or Melody, you know? It was after around the second week of you escorting Ilrune and using a whole lot of guiding... protective sigils for Amelia, that you actually did get attacked. This didn't strike Haven by surprise. You were all suspicious of the very strange circumstances. Basically, you walked up to a weird wooden tower and some tents in the wilderness, and a large black-skinned creature that turned out to be an orc jumped out of the snow and tried to attack you. But you guys easily attacked the orcs and destroyed them with a mixture of magic and just...
And a bear.
Skill and a bear. The bear was under the purview of magic, you know, the qualifiers, but, you know, let them not forget the bear. Remember
Because
the
it
bear.
did do most of it did get most of the kills.
The bear got
I think it got two of the three kills.
two or three of the
It was a
two.
pretty pro
Two of the
kill.
kills. Yeah.
Just to say, my IRL friend tuned in last week for that time, and he went, I don't really remember what happened, but there was a bear and a lot of swearing. And I was like, that's pretty much
That's
Jarvis.
pretty much it.
That was the end.
Yeah, no, that was a good. Sorry, Scott just subscribed, so I wanted to give a moment of silence. actually keep meaning to put re-add my Streamlabs to this stream because I like when you can show the bits, but I haven't done it yet.
Sorry, you just made me laugh while I was starting to eat.
Oh, did you inhale a little bit? I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry.
No, it was funny.
So that was what happened. Vale decapitated 2 of the orcs. The bear dragged one of the bodies away. You're left here with these large, strange creatures. Now, orcs in Jarviskjir are not so much a commonplace as they are in some fantasy settings. They're also a much larger, much more terrifying threat. They're not just ugly, pig-faced people. These are creatures that are 8 to 10 feet tall, but now they're headless and they're not really doing any harm to anyone. Their bodies are still warm. Their blood is causing little tufts of steam on the cold snow. And I believe you wanted to investigate a little further.
So I believe we had to loot them still,
Yes, you haven't looted them yet.
as my previous self has told me with 3 block capital loots.
Yeah. Sometimes Neil leaves messages for himself in the chat, and they do tend to reach future Neil. So you know what? The system works. You don't have to do any sort of check for this. They have very little on their bodies. The one that attacked you has the 2 that attacked you from the ground have great axes, and they're actually fine quality great axes. They are of no make that anyone other than Vale is very familiar with. They are of orcish make. They're just very brutal, savage weapons designed only for murder and particularly the murder of humanoids. And they're large. They're designed for creatures of this size. And actually, there was a bow that is double the size. I actually have a homebrew rule system which is oversized weapons, where only a creature that big could use these bows. They are essentially like a Monster Hunter style size of bow. And even that's even weird. The bow is comprised of metals that shouldn't work. And Vale, who knows of these things, noticed that the metal quality is exceptionally low compared to most standards of craft that you're used to now at this point, being quite high level adventurers. It's like standard iron, and even then it is not very good quality. One of the orcs, not the one that first attacked Haven, the other one, had what seems to be hide armor until when Gilwyn is poking around at it, he realizes it is the flayed hide of a golden dragonborn that he is wearing, like a sort of cloaks, like sash type thing.
That's pretty cool.
And they have skulls and things adorning their clothing, but actual like animal skulls, dragonborn skulls, the occasional human skull. More than one of them has scalps, and actually that tower, which is now toppled, the long hair you saw coming from it was a series of scalps stitched together, end to end. It's to create some kind of horrifying bait. They are nothing but savages. And
So Haven picks up a bow and tries to use it?
So if you want to try and use that bow, you do have disadvantage. Although I have a feat which allows you to use oversized weapons. What they do is that they have the next tier up of dice to try and use them. If you
So more or less, I realize this is like a very, very difficult bow.
You can't really wield it.
So it does what, D10 instead of D8?
Mm-hmm.
It was the range and all that for it.
Same.
Top of your head, same
Yeah.
as a long bow?
It's just for the ballpark, although of course the logic of being a large creature does change things a little bit. But when you're using large weapons, that's just the straight, large weapons are like that, tiny weapons are a tier down. Small aren't, because it's 5e.
After fiddling with it for a bit and realizing it's not going to work out very well, I'm going to hand it to Melody because Melody's theoretically stronger than me. So,
I don't think so.
what's your strength?
15.
Oh, you're 1 point under me.
Yeah.
But, you sometimes come off that way because you shapeshift and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
true.
anyway, so I'll give it to Melody to try and see if she can use it, but then just kind of fiddling from there.
I mean, Melody is. I mean, if she knows she obviously knows what a bow is, but I don't think she's never really used one.
I'm fairly sure Melody can't use a bow.
Yeah, I don't think she has proficiency with it.
She doesn't. I'm almost definitely
druid.
sure. Yeah, druids don't have that.
I don't. She'd just be like sort of.
And it's metal as well, and it's spiky and weirdly forged. It wouldn't really interest Melody.
I didn't realize you weren't proficient. So if that's the case, and you kind of just like fiddling with it, be like, you can you do that? It seems kind of hard. You're strong.
This weapon, Melody, not used to this weapon. Maybe can pull string back, but couldn't hit anything. Not like Veil.
It's not so much a matter
'cause-
of strength, it's a matter of the draw length of the bow. Because it
Yeah,
is so
yeah,
much
yeah.
longer, you cannot draw it back to the proper point.
No, it's usually you use these for hunting, and you just kind of like, "Arr." Right?
Yes.
Hmm.
Melody
Hmm.
doesn't use bows.
Gilwin's been looking at the stitched together scalps, and I kind of like put my hand on the vial of goblin nipples, and I'm like, okay, and I just empty them out. I feel bad now.
Hey!
Finally.
Funny part is this is the Everfrost area, right? So
Yeah.
some campaign, like 16 campaigns from now, somebody's gonna get a combat here. Find 2 perma frozen.
That's
Half
funny.
rotten.
Magical glowing goblin nipples.
I guess I'll take those out of my inventory now.
It took 31
yeah, that's right. It's
episodes
going in
for him
somebody
to get
else's
rid
pack.
of those.
Goodbye, nipples.
The right choice.
Yeah, if you looked inside their tents, they have, basic supplies for hunting and things. And Haven, and actually pretty much all of you aside from Gilwin, who even then picks up some of this because he's just been around you guys for long enough. It's clear that this is like a hunting party, and they are intending to return to a larger group or something like that.
Oh boy.
We are walking into an orc base.
It's the higher level version of a goblin hobgoblin base.
Yeah. It's Monday all over again.
No one wants that.
So one of these orcs was buried, correct?
Yeah, it was buried in the snow.
Now that's interesting. Vale was not aware that orcs had this ability. He believed that most orcs came from the Savage Lands, which is warm. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a roll nature question mark.
This can also just be a history roll.
Oh yeah, that's much better. That roll.
Anytime.
I have rolled it. It's your connection to the server has been interrupted.
Oh no.
This is what it's like trying to ask Eric to roll the dice. Like, all right, Eric, can you make a blah 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 roll? 15 minutes later, are you fucking kidding me?
There we go, it came through.
I rolled a 14. 11
Yeah,
plus.
it came through. So the obvious reason why you remember why orcs are here. Well, not why orcs. You remember that orcs are here, and that was in something that is in the back of your mind because it was discussed at some point around about 5 or 6 years ago. This area, a little bit north and a little bit further along the way you're going, was the land of Drakenbrow, which was the Dragonborn nation. And their castle city was just completely destroyed by a siege of these black-skinned orcs. The black-skinned orcs killed damn near everyone, and it caused a sort of refugee crisis. And of course, it was big news, not just because a nation was destroyed, but orcs don't go this far north. Orcs exist in the Savage Lands. If you have the map open, there's a schism between the two halves of the continent, and orcs stay on the other side. They are adapted to warmer cultures, so it is weird. It is weird, but it seems that these black orcs stayed for one reason or another. The black orcs stayed and are still hunting. From the evidence of all the things, they are still finding people to hunt while they're still here. But, this isn't the force that would have killed a entire nation state. You
Yeah,
reckon
well,
whatever's left now is a dwindling remnant.
Just for lore-wise, for those that don't know, Drakenbrow was pretty formidable. Like Ollie said, it's a castle city.
It was a castle city where they had a high usage of
Blind.
magic. They had wyverns. Every dragonborn has dragon breath. You know, it was a formidable place. No one knows why it got sieged. It just did. And it lost.
Rip.
Yep. But so you know and can relay to the rest of them that you Black Orcs are here. They came from they sailed here as well. They sailed here and they sailed more or less to the area you're intending on going, but from your memory, further northwards than where you're intending on going is where they sort of, the rumors are, is where they sort of landed. Because it wouldn't be expected of them to come from the northest, coldest place. It is weird, and they're still here.
Cool. I mean, Bale would relay that.
Yep.
Comment on how strange it is. He thinks it's strange anyway. Because they're hot weather creatures in his mind.
So, do you think they're here for something? Or someone?
I wouldn't have thought so myself. Perhaps, but I've always understood orcs to be mindless and, well, mostly to be looking for bloodlust and fighting rather than anything else.
Maybe they killed everyone back home.
Maybe.
Decided to brave the cold to kill some more.
Well, I mean, is it just a few or is it every one of them?
My understanding that it is quite a horde that destroyed Drakenbrow. So I would imagine that this would be a variety of deserters, hunters, outliers, trappers, whatever you want to call them. I suspect the vast majority would have headed back towards the Savage Lands, at least.
How long ago is this?
6 years.
Maybe
Give or
they don't
take.
remember the way.
They traveled by boat.
Maybe they don't remember the way to the boat.
Maybe?
I mean, Melody Melody can't get lost, so she always knows where we are. But every time the snow blows through, it's a hard time finding which tracks are the way to go. Maybe we should talk to them and ask them if they just need help.
Talking to orcs is a stupid idea, as you saw
Yeah.
earlier when you said, "Oh, hey there," and then they tried to lop your head off.
Oh, they're all like that?
Mm-hmm.
Gilwin looks
Oh,
at
okay.
Melody, who's trying to speak.
These orcs, not mindless though. They laid trap. Not a very good trap, but a trap. And yes, Vicious attacked us with no reason, but that doesn't mean mindless.
I used it more as a phrase rather than.
But Melody, you maybe there was reason. And like I'm gonna go over and like look at one of the orcs and see if it seems well fed or if it's like emaciated, starving.
It is
freezing.
definitely missing its head. Give me a either a nature or medicine roll for that. So I couldn't resist that sass. It was too easy.
Well, actually, medicine's not horrible. I will roll medicine.
Yeah, I didn't imagine either wouldn't be good, but you know, you have the choice. Actually, that was a great roll. That was a really good roll. So you've been looking at too much Pathfinder, and you're looking for like plus 18s.
No. My other one's -2. That's why. So the other one's horrible.
So actually, they look not well fed, but like they're living. They're making do. The biggest one of them, which is the one that attacked you, is the most fed. They aren't. They have battle wounds on their body. They all do. They're orcs, but it doesn't seem to slow them down or weaken them anymore. They didn't even wear that much to deal with the cold, although they do have some furs on them.
I'm gonna stand there pondering for a little bit, like you guys can clearly tell I'm trying to work something out.
Melody comes up, stands next to you, squats down, pokes at the thing with like end of the spear.
It's one of the things where like the body like shifts a little, like and oozes. They're gross and bloaty now. Or in general.
Orcs not from cold lands, you said, Dale.
Yes, they live south of the breach, typically.
Hardy creatures can probably survive everywhere.
Apparently so. Might I suggest that we don't hang about their camp, in case they have any others ready to come back?
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think this is the big one, and it seems like the one that is the most, like, probably ate the most. Are they pick on the little one kind of people, like the big ones are the leaders?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Like with us, Gil is the scrawniest one, but he's the leader. But
Yes,
like with them, it
that
seems
still
opposite.
doesn't change the fact that I don't know. It is a reasonable assumption to make.
I was just wondering if maybe we should find the big one and do the same thing. You know, kind of like kick in the head.
Do I know any stories about orcs that might give me any information?
Absolutely a history or even like a performance role, because you're thinking about like stories and songs, right?
I'll do performance because that's 10.
You're recalling
yeah.
a verse.
There are a lot of songs about orcs, and there's a lot of fairy tales about orcs. But even then, it's not like a fairy tale. They're like, you know, they're like not even like child snatchers. Like orcs will eat you. You know, it's actually, you've heard stories in taverns you performed in Goldport of Goldport has a lot of people who sail south. And that is orc-infested waters, and orcs, strangely enough, are competent sailors, despite what you would assume. Orcish ships are terrifying, even to very accomplished Goldport galleons. And then that also being said, you actually think of, you know, bards learn a lot of Elvish songs. They're some of the most beautiful songs in the world. There are a lot of Elvish songs, particularly religious songs, where orcs are defeated, or the bad guy, or something. There's very much an elvish orcish hate. But you have no there was never anything about Dragonborn or an orcs or anything like that that ever came up. Was there anything else more specific you were looking for, or just your general knowledge?
Just like if that alpha male.
Oh
type-
yeah, well orcs in the stories, orcs are led by one individual. So and in the stories, they're usually someone who's really tough or someone that uses magic.
Right.
So in a lot of the elvish stories, there's like a fiendish warlock or a cleric to their dark god or something of that sort.
Right. I think Haven might be onto something there. I'm pretty sure orcs don't value intelligence. And this guy, none of them really look intelligent, but this guy's the biggest. He was probably the leader.
Strong creatures rule over others. This
Yeah.
is nature.
But if this
Maybe
guy,
go ahead, Dean.
I'll like kick him because he's pretty big, isn't he?
Yeah, this was like a 10-foot tall beastie.
Okay. If this guy is just one of the outliers, I'm not sure I want to see the leader.
So, you think they get even bigger?
It's possible.
Or
Well-
one of these with magic.
Yes, Millie, that's true. Some deal in dark magic.
Sort of likely in that it is a small group of orcs. We actually outnumbered them. Typically, they form quite large groups when they're able, so we can either presume that this is all that is left, small scattered groups like this,
Yes.
Scouts.
or there is a larger group that these are scouts for.
I'll look to Melody and say, do we want to follow tracks to see where not to go, or avoid, or just avoid?
Go carefully. Avoid They all said they attacked north.
Drachenbral is some way north and east of here.
Make sure we are careful not to wander north. But
There wouldn't be much reason for them to stay in that area, as the area is desolate.
Ilrune actually speaks up. Who's been back there? But not
No,
saying
yeah.
anything. Ilrune is one of those people who watches a lot of your conversations, and occasionally will actually talk with Haven after like whatever random thing you've been talking about. I imagine there's been at least one conversation with her and him about whether the sky's gonna fall. But just speaks up and's like, the Black Orcs have been a problem for Velheim. In fact, they have attempted to send occasional raiding parties, but have never done any true damage. They are scattered around this eastern side of the north, like pests.
Where's Velheim?
Velheim is like if you just kept going up north until you reach the end of the continent from where you are right now, pretty much.
So if God, 6 years ago, they attack Drachenbral and break it, and then become problems somewhere else. After that, that means they didn't stay there. Maybe some, maybe not. Maybe we look. I mean, and I'll like, because you were talking about the one that was wearing like dragon skin.
Yeah.
You're like, because dragons are magic, and so wearing dragon flesh would give you magic flesh, and it seems like that would be a good thing. Like, maybe we want to go and see if these magic dragons had more inside their keep after it fell. If these creatures are so dumb, maybe they didn't find everything. But we do have a task, I say, looking off to the east. I don't know how far that trek is from here.
You reckon it's about a week until you reach the port?
I was specifically referring to Drachenbrow. How far?
Drachenbrow is not very far away from where you are right now. It is. I mean, you're probably going to be able to see it tomorrow, like tomorrow sunrise. If
But
you
I
go further
probably don't
towards it, it'd just be a couple of days. You're very close to it.
Would any of us like know that, or is that just like out of game?
Ilrune can tell you that actually, so that you know
Okay.
that in knowledge. She would be able to tell you more or less where you are. She would like look up to the sky and then tell you that you're very close.
could be dangerous, not part of what we need to do. But if you want treasure, perhaps.
I find it unlikely that savages such as orcs have any use in gold.
Drachenbral was heralded as a home of both great magical learning and great physical strength.
No,
Learn
Drachenbrow
magic?
had gold.
I wonder if I could learn magic.
Anyone can learn magic.
Oh, I'm gonna be a wizard. You hear that, Gil? I'm gonna be a wizard.
Haven, you can be anything you want to be.
I knew that was the answer.
I myself will look to the east and just sort of ponder how much of a rush we're in.
I mean, it's you that I follow, Gil. I was just thinking, it's here, it's near, I have no fear.
One more, come on, one more round.
But to protect you, I did swear.
I did swear.
Swear! Here, near, swear.
In Undercommon,
It's a
it makes
rhyme.
more sense.
No, that does rhyme!
It's what do they call it? Like a near rhyme? It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
okay,
different words for that.
sure,
Excuse me,
you're
do you
allowed
listen
to do it.
hip hop music? That rhymes.
No.
Yeah, but you weren't rapping.
I sorry.
Rap
Do you want me
it.
to be like?
No, I don't. I'm violated.
Okay, so you clearly stopped listening to hip hop, like.
Yeah. That's also a very bad.
Alright.
I can only do so much.
That was
okay?
like actually the fake hip hop they had in BoJack's like 90s episode.
Ah, beautiful.
So, you say it's about a day away, Ollie.
If you keep traveling today, you will see it tomorrow dawn. If you travel through the next actual day of traveling, you will probably be at the city. Yeah, like you're right now. You're on a sort of there's like a landmass between you and there. You just can't see it.
Come here.
You need to sort of travel across a loud boy. You just need to go a little further. If you wanted to turn directly to Drakenbral, it would be about a day of travel. What you could always do is just travel a bit further, camp, try and look at this place from afar and make your next decision.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually specifically going to suggest, feel like, there's, it could be dangerous, like you're saying. Vale, you've been quiet. Do you think maybe you and Melody can go and see if it's safe enough for us to even try, and then if so, we can go in, Gil and the ladies and myself
Amelia
can
will
hang
point
back.
out and just be like, "We are trying to go somewhere. This isn't what we're here to do."
Well, that is indeed possible. I am a little bit hesitant about the idea of taking Ilrune in there, to be honest.
Why is that?
He, looks at Elrune and says, and looks back, she's a powerful mage.
Well, yes, but if she was to die in there, and all of us were not, then we would be in part to blame for her death. And then we would have to explain the death of a Moon Elf diplomat to the Moon Queen.
Thinks for a few moments. Then it seems like something like clicks. And he gets like a smile on his face and he starts nodding slowly. I get it. I get it, Vale. Well, if no one's interested, I'm not going to waste time. And I'll like start immediately
walking.
packing up to head east. Yeah.
Cool. So you, you weren't camping yet, of course. So you keep traveling, and you set up
But
camp
Haven
for the
just
night.
drops his shit everywhere. As soon as he stops walking.
Well,
he's like,
you know, moment
All
of
over.
combat, he probably threw his bags aside, stuff like that. So you camp for the night. Is there anything you want to discuss when you camp for the night? And actually, being said, in the place where you camp, you can see to the north the slight lights of civilization, but not a city. Nothing that big. In the darkness.
an orc camp?
Just very slightly what you can see. If you want to try and do a further perception roll, you can, but without spyglass, it's going to be a very high DC.
I'll give it a go.
But you did, that means that you did find a safe place to camp it, so you have almost like an overlook of the downward places you need to go.
That's a roll.
Are you going, Vale?
Yeah, I'm just having a look. I was just seeing whether I had anything that I could perhaps form a spyglass with, like a couple of potions and.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Just buy a spyglass, mate.
That.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll just buy one right now, Ollie. I'll buy one.
Yeah.
No, there's no shops. I just mean in general.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
you
That's
should
why I
think.
was looking.
You should think of things before they happen. It's D&D. Phrase to be
I
prepared.
don't need a spyglass. I got potions.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, it worked.
So melody is one of those things you look a little further and you do see more than you know the others who are just looking over the horizon, right? But it's very hard to see in the dead of night, and it's a very dark night. I mean, it is starting to turn to spring. It's the end of winter. But Vale is the one who can look even further and actually can see very slightly as he lets his eyes adapt to the darkness. Elves do have dark vision, but of course it's far away. The tattered remains of a city wall of a fairly small city and a tower behind it. You heard stories. You heard Drakenbrow described as a castle city, a city of castles. It doesn't look like that. It looks like almost like a smaller version of Bastilian with these strange spires that go up, and the walls look vastly damaged from just what you can see. You can almost see the shapes of just holes in the walls, and they're both the Bastilian and the tower behind it are up on slight hills, and around them you do see more to the eastern side camps, large camps. Not anything to the extent of a town, but just large camps of tents.
I would relay that information back to the others.
How close?
Again, like if you spend the rest of the day traveling, you'll get there tomorrow night.
Right. Gotcha.
You can look over it now because it's the frozen lands. You can't. It's just flat space, more or less. It's actually not that flat. It's just it's so still. You know, there's nothing there.
Well, is it safe to assume it's more orcs?
Perhaps it is difficult to tell from this distance, but it would be strange if it was, say, humans out there, as they're not really particularly capable of surviving in these areas. You mean-
Haven sassed, but he couldn't get any words out because he's so sleepy and muted.
How many do you think?
Looks like a good-sized camp to me.
It is an army at least, you know.
Wow.
So, if we start convincing them to come out one at a time, maybe throw a rock to get their attention.
Amelia
How long
just
do you think
clears
it
her
take to whittle
throat.
them down?
She finishes doing her circle around the camp and just clears her throat. It's like, we're going east. We're catching a ship, and we're going to Tron.
Oh. Yeah. I just thought they were pretty close to here. All right.
Then we should travel further away from here so that we don't get eaten by orcs. And then she goes back to like reading her spellbook and things.
I tend to agree with Amelia.
I'm gonna go to bed, but probably engage ill-ruining conversation with her. I wonder if orcs eat goblins. 'Cause, I mean,
She'll actually give you a good deal of information in orcs, but more or less it's stuff that has the other characters already know and have described just how savage they are. It's very similar to Vale's opinion, what she describes.
they're gonna say very similar to how Savage Vale is.
Yeah, very similar how Savage Vale is. Anything else? Anyone else wanted to discuss for the night?
Nope.
No.
I think so.
Cool. So, the next morning, you have all of you can see this on the distance in the morning with the morning light. Like I said, it's just it just clears space. You can just look down from your slight vantage point and see the city in the distance. Although it's still, when things get so far away, they're almost misty. But you can see the city on the hill that looks unnatural. Cities are unnatural, yes. But something about that and the way the castles are built and the way the walls have been removed in some places and the way the tower almost sits at like a strange leaning tilt. It just looks very uncomfortable to look at for an extended period of time. And now actually you realize Easier Vale, that like camp, that war camp that you assume to be Orcish, doesn't go up to the city. It's separate. It's not like the camp that is occupied. It's an occupied city with a camp spilling over it. Mm-hmm. It's separate and a good deal far away. And I'll actually say with that perception roll, you look again, and it almost looks like they have a defended side where the city is. Like the orcs, if those are orcs, don't want to be in the city either.
Now this is interesting. Now we're a little closer. I can see that the war camp has fortifications on the city side, almost as if they are defending from something within. But I can't say what.
Orcs fight amongst themselves, yes. Maybe some took city and drove the rest out.
I wouldn't have thought so. We didn't see any lights in the city.
True.
You did.
Oh, there were lights in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was hard to tell then because it's all just a blur on the distance, even with a 25. But now you can clearly tell that you did see lights in the city. Not in the tower, but in the city. The tower is behind the city. From this vantage point.
In that case, what Melody says is reasonable assumption.
So they're maybe infighting?
Perhaps.
Hmm.
In which case, we leave them to destroy themselves, I would say.
Yeah.
And good riddance.
So are we going to go to the city, or are we going to go around that too?
We don't need to go around it. Our way is east, that is north.
We
Okay.
ignore city and try and avoid odd bands of orcs.
Awesome. So, you start traveling. Haven or Melody, give me a survival roll.
Give me advantage, please, Haven.
No, that's it. It's both of you can do a survival roll. You can't do the sharing with advantage. I'm changing the way traveling works slightly.
What? No!
So you actually have to slightly do things. Yeah, I know, right?
Right. Do
I
I have
do
anything
things.
that can make it can abuse this?
No,
I have enhance ability.
considering you're doing something for a week long and
I know,
possibility doesn't work.
I know. I'm being an arse.
She's better at survival than me. So
Yeah,
she
which
will
is
be the
great.
one rolling.
Basically, you're given a very similar to how I do my sailing rolls. I have an estimated travel time, and depending on how your roll is, you either pass or fail. Haven, you do it as well. You can have two navigators.
Oh, I'm sorry. They said one or the other.
No,
Bam.
I did, but I'm bad at wording. And it's actually one of those things that it's very hard to travel through the north, but you'd be doing it for 2 weeks without any concern, and you keep on traveling. You do make a slightly wider circle than you intended to around the city because there are orcish camps. Now, I will say, there are moments where you do fight more orcs. Where Haven, now that you know that they can be in the snow, moments before they jump out, like points at them with his pike, and you prepare. And with a mixture of Vale's arrows and Melody's magic and Haven's just destructiveness at the start of combat, you actually have no problems with the occasional. Probably every day you end up fighting 2 orcs, more or less. Some days a little more, some days you don't fight anything. Even a couple of times they're orcs returning from a hunt with boar, and you're like, okay, food, you know. But you don't have any problems with it at this point. You're high-level adventurers. Small groups of orcs, as previously shown, are no real problem, actually. You keep on traveling. Very, very wary, traveling a little faster now because it's actually not as bad. For the most part, you're traveling on snow-coated rock, not ice. Snow-coated ice. And also you're starting to get towards areas where it's just a more cold but still grassy and forested area instead of just snow and ice and snow and ice. And Melody, for one, is actually much better with those sort of environments. It's after a week of travel that you go all the way. I will say that as you're continuing to travel, you see more of that orcish camp. It is large and sprawled. But it's not like a city where it's you know, there's no two-story buildings. There are just tents and maybe the occasional wooden building, and it's sparse. You see areas where it peters out and then areas where it grows again. But after those 7 days of travel, you come to where this port is marked on your map. And you do actually find it as you walk up to it. You find that basically you've been walking up to for several days an eastern set of mountains, snow-tipped mountains that aren't quite as dramatic or as impossibly tall as some of the dwarven ones that Vale and Gilwyn and Melody have seen in the past, but still very much mountains. And you climbed a mountain earlier, so I don't know why I excluded Haven because you climbed a mountain. Nestled quite nicely in between a sort of dip between those mountains and a nice little natural valley, you see a wall, but a sort of castle wall with you know, sort of those castle buildings. It's like stone walls with quite a bit of foundation and defensibility, but with thatched roofs, even wooden roofs in places. As you're walking up to this place, you see a wooden gate, sort of a gate building, and then a wall that completely caps this little mountainous area. And on top of the gate building, a ballista is being aimed at you as you're approaching.
Want me to go wave at him?
Yeah, okay. Raise a hand. Hail!
You drop your bag, your potions rattle.
It's always alcohol.
You raise your hand, nothing immediately happens. You're actually a little too far away for shouting distance. Especially because it's windy.
What time of day is it, sorry?
Let's say it's afternoon. It's like an hour before it gets dark, you know.
Okay.
But it's a very windy day, and it's in this sort of area. The wind it sets up a sort of dusty, snowy dust, more or less, like a powdery snow that makes it quite a lot of noise and not the best to see. But seeing the buildings in front of you is not so much of a problem.
Well, let us hope they do not shoot us with that ballista before we get within earshot.
Yeah, just walk slowly. No quick movements.
Do you think that they can already see us, or do you think it's they were already pointing it this way?
I'm fairly certain I saw the ballista point to move. I think it's aiming at you, actually, Haven. Very dodgy character.
Well, if you want, I can draw their attention and try to allow you to get in closer quietly.
I think we'll be okay.
The ballista fires.
Whoa, shit!
I'm tackling Gil away from where the bolt is coming towards.
Why did I say that?
You tackle Gil.
Yeah, I'm tackling Gil away.
You hear the ballista fire before you hear the whistling of the ballista bolt. It travels over your heads, behind you, at a orc in the snow that was just rising up
They missed.
from the snow. It's when you think they miss when you look back and you see an orc that was just pulling itself out of the snow. This ballista bolt just impaling it, piercing it to the frozen ground. In fact.
Okay. That was a good shot.
Yep.
Oh, we were very lucky. I'll keep my hands up.
They definitely don't like orcs then.
Luckily, none of you are orcs. So as you travel up to the gate, someone sort of leans over the top of the crenellations, on top of the sort of fortifications. Very human. They're actually wearing like a metal helmet and some chainmail and stuff with fur and leather sort of additions, and just sort of yells down and is like, "Who the bloody hell are you?"
Haven.
We've come seeking travel on a ship.
You've come to seek haven. Well, this is a safe place. You'll find no problems here if you cause none. And then you actually see that the dude, which is actually quite rare for like the messenger, and to starts opening the gate with some mechanism back there, with some sort of like wheel, grunts of effort. The gate opens, pushing away the powdery snow and opening up to a small little town. When you enter the town, you see there's a sign. Whatever the sign used to say has been chiseled away. Now the sign says, painted on, Arsonville. And that's where we're going to take our first little break.
Arsonville FC.
Yeah.
Where by far the...
Alright, we'll be back
That is.
in a couple of minutes.
But
But my hotkeys don't work, so it's going to take a while.
That's why I'm walking away.
Bye.
Bye!